Hello everyone, welcome to Semiconductor Fundamental Lecture Series. This is session number 2. Today we are going to discuss the various properties of semiconductor. So first we'll start with polarity of charge carriers, next concentration of charge carriers, then we will discuss transport of charge carriers, and finally interaction of semiconductor with the electromagnetic field. Current flow is due to flow of charges. So we know that current flow is rate of flow of charge. So it will be I will be equal to dq divided by dt. Okay, rate of flow of charge, current flow, right? So now we will study these properties of semiconductor with respect to these four main parts. So let us start with polarity of charge carriers. So in metals, we have negatively charged carriers only, that is electrons. We have only electrons. Whereas in semiconductors, we have positively charged holes and negatively charged electrons. We have both the charge carriers in semiconductors. So that's the basic difference between semiconductor and metals. Okay. So next we'll start with concentration of charge carriers. How many of these charge carriers are present in the metal, semiconductor, and insulator? Okay. Later we will see an interesting property of semiconductor, that its concentration can be varied over a wide range of magnitude. Okay. So this picture which you see on your screen is x-axis is the log scale, which is the concentration of charge carriers in different materials. Okay, so for metals, obviously we will have a large concentration of charge carriers, particularly electrons, around 10 raised to 21 per centimeter cube. For semiconductor, the range is very wide, ranging from 10 raised to 6 per centimeter cube and to 10 raised to 21 per centimeter cube. Okay, so we have a wide range of variation in concentration of semiconductor materials. And for insulators, we have very low concentration of charge carriers in the range of 10 raised to 6 per centimeter cube or less. Indeed, metals are highly conductive, insulators do not conduct electricity, and semiconductors will at a certain external condition is met, either increase in temperature or application of voltage, it also conducts electricity. So this is the difference between the three materials: metal, semiconductors, and insulators. So metals have high concentration of charge carriers, insulator have the least, and semiconductor have the widest concentration of charge carriers. Okay, so if semiconductors have such wide range of concentration of charge carriers, how do you achieve this concentration? So you achieve this concentration by either introducing impurities in the semiconductor. So adding impurities in the semiconductor material is the process which is called as doping. Next will be by changing the temperature. So by changing temperature, you can vary the concentration. And finally, we have illumination. By shining light on the semiconductor material, also we can change the concentration. So with respect to doping, we have in a periodic table group 3 element as boron. Okay, so for a p-type silicon, we have boron impurity. Okay, we have boron impurity. Fine. And if a semiconductor silicon is doped with a boron impurity, it is called as p-type silicon. Okay, and group 5 periodic table element, which is phosphorus. Okay, so we have n-type silicon material, which is, if it is doped with group 5 element, okay, that is phosphorus impurity, we call it as a n-type silicon, okay, material. So group 3 periodic table element boron has 3 valence electron in its outermost shell, and group 5 element has 5 valence electron. So basically boron impurities are called as acceptors, and phosphor impurities are called as, or n-type material are called as donors. because it has extra one valence electron at its outermost cell. Okay, so this process of adding either boron impurity or phosphorus impurity, these are the most famous ones. Okay, we have various other elements or other materials also, in the periodic table in group 3 and group 5, but these are the most commonly used for doping process. So if we dope the silicon with boron impurity, we have a p-type semiconductor silicon, and if we dope it with phosphorus impurity, we have n-type silicon. Okay, now let us move on to the next point. That is, now we know that charge carriers has polarity, they have concentration, but how do they travel from one point in the semiconductor to the other? So there are three mechanisms in this. First is drift mechanism, next is the diffusion mechanism, and the third one is the thermoelectric current. Let us investigate that one by one. So in metals and semiconductor, current flows whenever electric field is applied. This kind of transport is called as drift. Let us investigate it more. So basically in a drift mechanism, transport of charge carriers is because of potential gradient. Okay, what do you mean by potential gradient? You can have a high or low potential at different points of semiconductor. Let us see an example. So here we have taken a n-type silicon in a bar. So here we have n-type silicon material is used. Okay, so here we have applied an external voltage V1, say 1 volt. So it will have a electric field directed from left to right, okay, in this direction. And this 1 volt on the left hand side of this n-type silicon bar, we will have 1 volt, and on the right hand side we have 0 volt. So at every point of semiconductor, the potential, the variation, there is a variation in potential, and due to that, the current which is flowing inside this arrangement is the drift current. Okay, so electrons are going from right to left because these electrons are attracted towards the positive terminal of the power supply, and from the negative terminal they are repelled. That is why they're traveling from right to left. And we know that the conventional current flows in the opposite direction to the flow of electrons. So current in this circuit is traveling from left to right. Fine. So under the influence of this electric field, whenever the charge carriers travel, that type of mechanism is called as drift mechanism. Or we can simply say, whenever there is a potential gradient in the semiconductor, the current which is flowing inside that is due to the drift mechanism. Next is the diffusion mechanism. Now, just now we saw that in semiconductor, current can also flow because of diffusion. Okay, and whenever the current flows because of concentration gradient, so there can be different points in the semiconductor where there will be a high concentration gradient. What do you mean by concentration gradient? From high to low or low to high concentration regions. So we will shortly see in few lectures that PN junction. So PN junction, we have p-type silicon material over here. Let me just show it to you quickly. So in a PN junction, we have, let's say this is my, okay. So on this side, we have P-type silicon. And on this side, we have N-type silicon material. Okay. So in the P-type silicon material, it is doped with boron impurities, okay, denoted by Na. So this is the acceptor concentration of charge carriers, and this is the donor concentration of charge carriers. So in the p-type silicon we have majority holes, and in the n-type silicon we have majority electrons. So when charge carriers, when you see, so these holes over here, when they go to the n side, they see a very low concentration, because in n-type silicon holes are minority carriers, and in the p-type silicon electrons are minority carriers. So you see in a PN junction, this is the PN junction basically. We will be discussing this in detail. Okay. but in basic understanding, this is what we have. Okay, so we have a large concentration difference when you go from p silicon to n silicon, and when we are concentrating on the holes. So the hole concentration is very high in the p silicon, very low in the n silicon. Electron concentration is very high in the n type silicon material and very low in the p type silicon material. So the possibility of diffusion in the pn junction is very, very high. Okay, so the possibility of let me just wait a second. Okay, so the possibility of diffusion in the PN junction is very, very high. Okay, let me just rub this out. Yeah, so let us go to the next point. Yeah, so that's what we have written, that the possibility of diffusion is very, very strong in semiconductors, since its concentration can be varied in the right from 10 is to 21 to 10 is to 6 per centimeter cube. Okay, so we will see the diffusion mechanism is also very, very strong in case of semiconductors. Now third one is the thermoelectric current. Okay, this is because of temperature gradient. So in the 2 points, in the two areas of semiconductors, we can say different points, we can have different temperature difference. So the current due to that is called as thermoelectric current. Basically in thermocouple, the two junctions, one is a hot junction and one is a cold junction, there we can have whenever we have a temperature difference in a semiconductor material, it will be giving current due to the thermoelectric current. So this is due to temperature gradient. Okay, so uniqueness of semiconductor is that we can have all three modes of transport of charge carriers, that is drift, diffusion and thermoelectric current. That is why we can have we have so many applications and different types of devices using semiconductors. Okay, now another fact of difference between metal, semiconductor and insulators, this is just for information that x-axis is the resistance for different materials, that is metal, semiconductors and insulators. So for metals, the resistance of the metal is very, very low. So it will low resistance means very high current, it can be very highly conductive. So in the order of 10 raised to minus 3 ohms for metals. For insulators it is in the order of 10 raised to 5 ohms. Okay, so any material having this property will be termed as insulator, very high resistance it have. And semiconductors will have a very wide range of resistance values. Okay, its resistivity can be changing, its resistance can change from 10 is to 5, it can go as low as 10 is to minus 3 ohms. Okay, so this is just for information I have given you all. Now next, let us study an intrinsic very, very unique concept of drift transport. Okay, in the first session we talked about mobility, so we will come back to it over here. Okay, let me change this to 40%. Yeah, so drift transport is a relation between the drift velocity versus the electric field. Okay, so whenever we plot drift velocity versus electric field, and we will get such graphs. So this green color graph is the behavior which is observed in elemental semiconductors, for example silicon, germanium. And this red color curve is describing the behavior which is observed in the compound semiconductor, for example gallium arsenide. Okay, so how this data is there, they have tested this for different materials, elemental and compound semiconductors, and these are the graphs which they have got. This is the empirical data. Okay, so they have found that for very small electric fields, we can say both the graphs for both compound and elemental semiconductors, the whenever we increase the electric field, the drift velocity of carriers increases linearly with it. Okay, so for small electric field values, your drift velocity is proportional to electricity. So Vd can be written as small vd, which is the drift velocity, can be written as mu times e. Okay, the mu is the mobility, which is the proportionality constant. So here the unit of drift velocity is centimeter per second. The unit of electric field is volt per centimeter. Hence, the unit of mobility will come out to be centimeter square per divided by volt into second. Okay, so this is how the mobility concept has come. Now, a very interesting behavior of compound semiconductor is that the region of negative differential resistance. So we have some semiconductor devices which will operate in this region, and it will have some interesting properties. So over here, as you can see, for compound semiconductors, the drift velocity reaches a peak, then it again falls down, and again it increases. So this region between the rise, the highest point, and the lowest point is called as the negative differential resistance region. Okay, for semiconductors, elemental semiconductors, as you go on increasing your electric field, your drift velocity of carriers will mostly saturate at a particular value. Okay, and this has a lot of significance in studying the various semiconductor devices, especially in the MOSFET. So in the MOSFET, we will see that due to this phenomena, that is drift velocity saturating, this will be directly related to why does the current saturate in the output characteristics in response to the voltage also. So this we will come back to this concept. So yeah, so that's the information which I wanted to share about the drift transport. It is a relation between the drift velocity versus the electric field. Now, what is this drift velocity? So it is the average velocity attained by the charged particles, that is electrons or holes, in the semiconductor material due to an applied electric field. Okay, so average velocity. Why average velocity? Because these charged particles can be huge in number. Okay, so in average, this we have to consider, hence we have to consider the average velocity. Okay, so it is the average velocity attained by the charge carriers inside the semiconductor with the under the influence of electric field. That is the drift velocity. Now let us come back to the come to the last point of discussion, that is interaction of semiconductors with the electromagnetic field. Okay, EM wave. So we have two concepts over here: photoconductivity or photovoltaic and electroluminance. So let us start with photoconductivity. So over here we have light energy as the input and the electrical energy as the output. So what really happens, it's a very basic, I'm presenting a very basic picture over here. Okay, in reality it's quite complex. So whenever a light wave of particular frequency collides with the atom, let's say a silicon atom of a semiconductor material, it will break the bond, and due to the breaking of this bond, it will result in the electron hole pair generation. So you will have a free electron and a free hole. Okay, due to this, the conductivity of the semiconductor material changes since the energy is observed. Light energy is observed and it is giving away a electron hole pair. Okay, so the example of this is LDR. So LDR is the light dependent resistance. Okay, so in LDR we have change in the resistivity, which is used to detect the light. Fine. And in solar cell, which is very most famous form of renewable energy, photovoltaic, the generated electron hole pair will give rise to a voltage. You remember in a solar cell, it depends upon the light. So the light, when falls to the solar cell, it gives us voltage, electrical voltage. So it is the same concept over here. Okay, whenever we have very high concentration of this electron hole pair generation, it can lead to rise in the voltage or in some cases current. Okay, so this is about photo conductivity and photovoltaic. Last one is the electroluminance. So in this, what happens is reverse process. Electrical energy is the input and the light energy is the output. LED, light emitting diode. So what really happens there is a free electron and a hole in a semiconductor. When they recombine, energy is given away as light. Okay, exactly reverse process as photoconductivity. Okay, and the example will be a LED or a laser diode. Fine. So these are the phenomena which comes under the interaction of the semiconductor with the electromagnetic field. And with this, we have completed all the topics which we have to cover for today's lecture. So let us revise. We have started with polarity of charge carriers. Under polarity, we have seen that semiconductor have two types of polarity of charge carriers, holes and electrons. Then we have seen concentration of charge carriers. Semiconductor can have a very wide range of concentration of charge carriers. Then we have transport of charge carriers. Three mechanisms were there: drift, diffusion, and thermoelectric current. And then finally, we have seen the interaction of semiconductor with the electromagnetic field. So in that, we have seen photoconductivity and electroluminance. So with this, we have come to the end of this session. Next time, we'll cover some other properties and fundamentals related to semiconductors. So until then, have a good day and thank you.